All right, everyone, how we doing? We're back. Brand new year, first video I think on the channel of 2024. That means that the transfer window is open. I have no idea what day it is. Tuesday, I believe. Ryan, it's a Tuesday today. Wouldn't you know? It's that kind of time of the year when nobody really has a clue. Celtic are playing today on a Tuesday at 5 p.m. I believe that's because it's a bank holiday back where you are. You're going to the game today as well. Must be looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Any chance to go and watch Celtic's always a positive. Going to see the first game of the year. Exciting times, St Mirren Stadium, it's a good stadium, should be a good game, two decent sides. Celtic a bit more decent than St Mirren, but hopefully that'll be the case today. But yeah, hopefully I've not jinxed it within 50 seconds there. But yeah, two good sides in good form at the moment, and I'm hoping for a good game this evening.
Certainly, the live chat's a wee bit quiet, Ryan. It's mysteriously quiet, and to the extent that I'm getting worried if we're even online here. So could you please do us a big solid here? And if you are watching this and can hear us and can see us and want to hear about Celtic, there we go, Tam Mac.
Tam's always here.
I don't think Tam's even done that because I think there's a wee bit of a lag sometimes, but Tam's just out of the goodness of his heart, he's just put in a hail there. So we're all there. Hello everyone. Yes, we're playing St Mirren today. Before we get on to that game and a bit of transfer stuff, shout out our big sponsors, MPH Group and Navien. New year, but they're doing the same old thing. MPH Group are Scotland's award-winning family-run all-trades specialists, and they cover mainland Scotland. They have an enticing Navien Boiler Winter Promotion just for you. If you go with MPH Group, you're choosing top-tier efficiency, and you'll also be getting a free Navien Internet Controller. That is a little gadget that can crank up your boiler's efficiency to an impressive 98%. They're also covering the first year service too, with no added costs. We know about Navien, they're big dogs as well, H&V, News, Awards, etc. MPH are offering flexible finance options for you, so you can gear up for the chill and consider making a smart move with MPH and Navien. Thanks again to them for sponsoring this video. Right. I'm not going to read that comment out. Something about stalking me. And I don't know if we want that. I'm sure Jason sounds like a good, honest person. Are you over the weekend yet? Positively? I'm kind of... I can't believe we're on to a new game already. I wanted to come on today and talk all about battering that mob once again, but we kind of have to only do it a wee bit now.
Yeah, I know. I'm not over it. I don't know about you, but I'm definitely not over it. I really, really enjoyed Saturday. Obviously, being at the game, it was a great atmosphere. It was a great day overall. Some really good performances. It wasn't a 2-1 game. I know it ended up 2-1, but it felt like a lot more comfortable than what it ended up being. A bit nervy towards the end, but two fantastic goals. There's a new superstar from Portugal and Paulo Bernardo, Kyogo doing Kyogo things. And yeah, some really, really good performances as well. Some real standout performances from guys that have really stepped up to the plate in that game. It was real character building from the side on Saturday. And yeah, I can't really complain. But this game is the next game is always the most important, and Celtic can't allow themselves to still be celebrating that result. I'm sure they won't be. I'm sure they'll be ready for this game, but it is a tough game. St Mirren at St Mirren Park. It's a difficult away day, and they've got to negotiate it.
Yeah, it's pretty simple to me. Drop points today and the good work from the weekend is undone. We have to go and win that game today. We have to back up the weekend, especially with this being the final game of the first half of the season, as it says in the title. One last push for the team. I think they'll be all right today. I think it's a tough game. It's a ground we have had difficulties at over. Well, certainly last season we lost there, didn't we? Even the game we ended up winning 5-1 was a tricky match. I was there that day in Paisley, and it was like until they had the red card, it was kind of a wee bit in the balance that day. So I think going there is probably quite high up on the list of grounds that I would be a little bit fearful of. But I just think after the weekend the team are going to be focused, and I'm actually looking forward to seeing Celtic today. Which may sound like a pretty daft statement to make, but in recent weeks, it's been a bit of a kind of drag at times, and I've kind of been a bit like, yeah, there's not a great deal to get excited about. But suddenly, I think after 3 wins in a row, obviously what happened at the weekend, as you've already outlined, a few players back to form seemingly. I'm looking forward to seeing the players today, maybe a few new ones returning as well. And yeah, I think we'll get the job done today. But it's a tough one. Do we do transfers quickly just before we get on? Rangers didn't lose the plot or anything at the weekend result, did they? They've not. They're over it, aren't they?
I think so. I think it's been quite a quiet and it's been a quiet weekend, but I like it quiet.
Is that for still game?
Yes, it's quiet. I like it quiet.
Yeah.
It's been a Twitter or X as you want to call it, has been a pretty good place over the weekend. It's been a very positive place if you're of the Celtic persuasion, that's for sure.
I get that. I'm really not. Don't worry, I'm not going to make this all about that mob because we've got a game to talk about. But my word, did they ever lose to us and just kind of accept it? I mean, like some of the nonsense, and I'm obviously thousands of miles away, but I'm still hearing it. And it all seems to be about that potential handball for Alistair Johnson, where there was an offside in the lead up to it anyway. Like, have I gone mad here? Am I missing something here? Like, why are they so annoyed? Is it simply that they just can't take being second best again?
I think there was a lot of people that were expecting Rangers to go and turn Celtic over at Celtic Park, and that wasn't the case. In fact, it was nearly the opposite. Probably should have been the opposite due to the fact that Celtic couldn't have any game management in the game. At 10 men, Celtic should have smelt blood and went for more goals.
Yeah.
But they didn't. Thankfully, they got the 3 points. That was the main thing at the end of the day. But yeah, I just think for the balance of everything, then the audio should come out for the Turnbull penalty, which I think is a complete stonewaller, and he was onside as well. So I think that was more of a penalty than the other one. But that seems to have been lost in all of this. There was other incidents I don't want to get into as well, but they're not getting talked about. It seems as if this penalty incident is getting more talked about than other incidents, perhaps even more pressing incidents that happened off the pitch. But that's a discussion for another day. But the main thing is Celtic get the 3 points, and they're sitting pretty at the top of the league regardless into the new year. Who knows what could happen today. Rangers are up against Kilmarnock too at home. Kilmarnock are one of the form sides in the league at the moment. Who knows what the league table is going to look like when Celtic kick off at 5, because they're the last team to play alongside St Mirren. So it'll be interesting to see what the results are today. I'll definitely be watching closely to see if anything happens in that game. But it's all about Celtic. Celtic have just got to keep winning. Keep on winning the games till the end of the season. They know the trophy will be going back where it belongs. So that should be their main aim.
Right, we are moving on to transfer stuff now, I promise. The January transfer window is now open. Don't worry about that. Some chat online recently about Ola Solbakken. In fact, it was brought up by Pat there. Ola Solbakken rumours. I'd be happy with that signing. Bit of chat online. I believe it's kind of been... Yeah, I know you're a big fan. I believe that the talk is... I've seen a few people saying that he's played for 2 teams already this season, so Roma, who he's with permanently, and Olympiacos, where he's been on loan. That would seem to suggest that he couldn't play for a third team in the same season. Now, I'm not 100% on that. It's just what I've read online and done like 20 seconds digging to see if that was the case. So that would seem to rule that out, but the chat has come from somewhere. There's also been Matthias Kvistgaarden, the Brøndby striker, and Thiago Araujo, the Estoril left back, who have both been mentioned previously. I think they're still ones to keep an eye on. And a new name, Rapid Vienna's German winger Nicholas Kuhn, also mentioned, I think last night. We could be talking around £2 million for him, being on the books of Ajax and Bayern Munich as a younger player at Rapid Vienna at the moment. Again, I've seen a few people online saying that this guy's a bit of a player, but I can't say that I've heard of him. Not that makes him a bad player. Any thoughts on any of those 4 names I've mentioned there?
It seems to be silly season right now, in the January transfer window, and that's going to keep the likes of this podcast and the website going with all these different stories about different players. Celtic do need players in January. I hope that the board realise that even with the good result against Rangers, they can't let them off the hook. You know, the squad is in dire need of some replacements. Doesn't matter how good Greg Taylor was on Saturday, which I thought he was. I thought he did have a really good game for Celtic. In fact, it was the other side that I thought was the problem in that game. Alistair Johnson was pretty awful throughout. I still think they need a left back. I think Alistair Johnson can up his game. We've seen it before. Get a more physical left back. You know, goalkeeper. You look at that Tavernier free kick. It's a good free kick, but it's one that I think a younger goalkeeper saves.
Totally agree.
But yeah, the players. I'd much rather Celtic get linked with goalkeepers and left backs at this moment, which makes the Thiago Araujo rumour not going away. You think that there's maybe something in that? I know he was on Paulo Bernardo's Instagram a couple of days ago. They seem to be pals from I think it was the Benfica setup. They were both in the Benfica setup at the same time.
How much of your day do you spend on Instagram? Because you always have these wee interactions between people.
A lot after a Celtic Rangers win, to be honest with you. It's a great place to be a couple of hours after a victory. And I think it's always interesting to see what players interact with each other. They all interact with each other, which is really good. Shows that it's a united dressing room as well. And, you know, from doing the Stats Bomb report a couple of days ago, you could see that the team's united behind the manager as well, because the pressing numbers were incredible. You know, 6 players had over 20 pressures in the game. So they're all playing for the team, they're all playing for the manager, and that's really good to see. But just going back in the transfer window, Kvistgaarden, you know, he was linked towards the end of the summer transfer window. I thought that one would have been pretty much signed, sealed and delivered come January from the way that people were talking about it. It seems as if one of those ones will come back to that in January. Interesting if that'll be the case. He's not the most prolific striker in the world, I would say, but he's definitely got a bit of talent about him. If there's any of those 4 that I would take instantly, and despite his misfortunes since leaving Bodo Glimt, which seems to happen to a lot of players, unless your name's Victor Boniface at Bayer Leverkusen, they all seem to struggle when they leave Knutsen for whatever reason. I don't know if Knutsen's that good a coach or they're just not as good a player, but there seems to be a lot of players that really struggle once they leave Bodo Glimt. But he's a good player and he terrorised Celtic in those 2 games, I seem to remember. Tall, but he's pacey as well. I think he'd be a great signing if Celtic can. It'd be very akin to El Yunusi in the fact that Celtic should have signed him 2-3 years ago, but they'd be going back for him. Yeah. I still think he could be younger. You know, what age is he? 23, 24 still. So I still think it would make sense if Celtic could get that done. But if he has played for the 2 teams, then, you know, that might be one that they look at in the summertime. You know, you don't want to. He'd be playing on the right wing, same as Abada. So you want to see Abada coming back into that side, scoring goals and getting back to full fitness. You don't want anything to hamper his progress because he's on a new deal as well. He'll be wanting to kick on, especially coming back from a terrible injury. But if there's a deal to be done, maybe even in the summer, then I think it's something that Celtic should look at. But it could pretty much be pie in the sky stuff at the moment. But I think we'll just wait and see with that one.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the striker stuff, the big news yesterday was that Kyogo hasn't been called up for Japan for the Asian Cup. That means that he will be with us, which I guess is good news for us. It's not great for Kyogo, especially after missing out on the World Cup. Not buying the argument that he needs to leave Celtic or anything like that. A couple of his teammates have been called into the squad by Moriyasu, that's Hatate and Maida. So it's a strange one, a really, really strange thing. I can only assume that Moriyasu doesn't fancy Kyogo at all, but Kyogo scored a couple of months ago for Japan, but they are really an informed team, so the manager kind of has the backing to do what he wants. But from a Celtic point of view, Kyogo's going to be there. O is away, so I think I'm a little bit calmer about that striking situation, although we still need another striker in. Even if just not for that period. Someone mentioned Danny Ings there. I don't know if you're all just throwing out random names or if you have amazing sources or whatever. I've not heard that one. One I have heard defensively, Scott McKenna, which is interesting as well. That one's growing. I sense this is going to be quite a polarising one. I think you're going to get a fair bit of negativity about Scott McKenna. I actually think he might be a good signing for Celtic. For a few reasons. He's left-sided, isn't he, Scott McKenna? So I think that's quite important. We've been looking for that kind of left-sided player for a while. And also he's done quite well and was a regular for a decent enough Nottingham Forest team, a regular in the Premier League. I believe the only reason he's no longer playing for them is because he's not going to sign a new contract. I know people maybe look at the fact it's an Aberdeen player and he hasn't always been brilliant. Maybe a few errors in there. Maybe not a glamorous name. I don't know. But I think Scott McKenna might be decent enough. And next to Cameron Carter-Vickers, I think that could be a solid enough defensive partnership. I know we've obviously got like Naropski still there. Thought he did well at the weekend. What do you make of McKenna?
I think it's a complete tap-in if Celtic can get that. 6 months left in his deal. He'll be a player that's desperate to make one final push before the Euros. That's got to be taken into consideration as well. He's not playing games for Nottingham Forest at all at the moment, so he'll be wanting to make a move where he can get as much game time as possible to make sure, or to give him the best opportunity to get himself on that plane to Germany. If it's a pre-contract and then he comes in the summer, then I wouldn't be against that. But there's a deal to be made here. He's not playing for Nottingham Forest. He'd probably get game time for Celtic. What age is he? 27, 28 years old. You'd be signing a player that's in the prime of his career at the moment, or seemingly the prime of his career. I think he's a player that Celtic should have signed 5 years ago. I've always quite liked him. He's good for a goal. I think he's a good 1v1 defender. He's a homegrown player as well, so he sorts that quota. With Turnbull, I think Turnbull will leave in this window. I don't even think he'll wait till the summer. There's no point. He's only got 6 months left in his deal. It could be a revolving door moment when Turnbull leaves because he's got 6 months on his deal and Scott McKenna comes in because he's got 6 months on his deal. I think that'd be smart. I think you've got to look realistically as well, and Celtic might be forward planning for life without Carter-Vickers in the summer. He's been at Celtic for what, 3?
No, Ryan, come on. It's a season of goodwill and all that. We're not having that kind of chat.
It's honesty, but it's I just want to be a realist, and I don't think Carter-Vickers will stay. I mean, I could say the same for Matt O'Reilly as well, but I don't even want to get into that. I don't even want to think about that as well. But you look at the squad depth. If you bring Scott McKenna in, Nawrowski's shown in that, I don't know about you, but that 50, 60 minutes showing that he is ready to play for Celtic. He'll be playing tonight, and I hope he makes a massive impression, because he certainly made a massive impression on me. He was actually one of the players that I was going to speak about individually. But that pass for the second goal is so underrated. It completely breaks two lines of Rangers' defence or their attack in their midfield and takes a lot of players out of the game. I just think this tonight could be a massive, massive game for him, and sort of cementing himself in that back line. With Welsh's injury, it's a sore one for Welsh, and he'll be out for a good amount of time, you'd imagine. But it's an opportunity for a player like Nawrowski. This is what he's been waiting for since August. This opening, Scales is taking his chance with both feet, and now this is Nawrowski's big chance. But I think he'll be a big player in the coming years for Celtic. It's sort of up to Scales to keep it going as well. It looks like Lagerbielke will be away. I think a player like Scott McKenna would be a no-brainer. A bit of experience to go with a young-ish backline, you would say. Scales is 24, 25. Nawrowski's 22. Having a 28-year-old in there could be great for experience, and I think he's a really good defender too. So if Celtic could get him on the cheap, then I think that'd be a phenomenal bit of business.
Yeah, I mean, a few people mentioning Liam Scales. I'll be honest, I had someone in my mind there as being a left-sided player, and I completely forgot about Liam Scales. He's obviously in there as well. You thankfully didn't forget. But I think, Carter-Vickers, Scales, Nawrowski, McKenna, Welsh kind of around the place as well. I think that would be decent enough. Yeah, I think just the thing with McKenna is, as I say, it's maybe not the most glamorous name, and people want like a kind of ball playing European style centre back, almost like a Van Dijk, that kind of Rolls Royce of a player, or a Julian or someone like that, with a bit of pedigree, and McKenna maybe doesn't quite have that glamour, but I think he'd be solid enough. But it's one to keep an eye on anyway. You heard anything else transfer wise, or anything else going on?
There was just the slight murmurings of the Ipswich goalkeeper. Is it Lackey? But he's a 33-year-old, so I don't know if that would be
strange. That
just screams Doris de Vries to me, unfortunately. I'm just thinking back to Brendan Rodgers' first time at the helm. I would much rather Celtic wait until the summer, get their scouting done right, and bring in a 23, 24-year-old that they've scouted extensively to fill that position for the next 3-4 years. I think it's so important. I think there will be a changing of the guard with Joe Hart. I think this is his last 6 months at Celtic. I don't know where he'll go. He might retire or he might go stateside for a couple of years. Yeah, absolutely. But I think now is the time, and they can't be deterred by the fact that the Barkas situation. If they go further afield, that was just a bad situation. I'm willing to put that down to a number of factors because he seems to be doing well for Utrecht at the moment as well. I'm not saying to sign him at all. That would be not that's what you're choosing to hear. I'm definitely not saying that, but if Celtic can find a 23, 24-year-old that they've scouted extensively, this is what I want Mark Lawwell to be doing. If there's a City Group goalkeeper there that can do that job, that can play with the ball at their feet, I'm more than happy to take that route. But yeah, they've got to do their scouting, they've got to get it right, and this is a position for the next 3-4 years. It's not just 1-2 years. The only reason it should be 1-2 years is if he's that outstanding that teams come in for him. But I want this position to be stabilised for the next 3-4 years because it has been with Joe Hart. Joe Hart's been there. This is his third season. I'm wanting the same for a younger goalkeeper that can save that shot on Saturday, to be honest.
You look at that season when we kind of flip-flop between Barkas, Bain and Hazard, and that's really the only real issues we've had in the goalkeeping department that I can remember, to be honest, like in a number of years. I mean, you think back all the way to Artur Boric, and I know he tailed off a little bit at the end, but he was kind of solid number one, and Fraser Forster and Craig Gordon had his critics, but I would say he was a goalkeeper in a successful Celtic team, and I think overall Joe Hart's been a good signing. So we've done well, generally speaking, with goalkeepers, but I think you're right. I think in the summer that's where the change will be. But I've said it before, I expect that to happen in the summer. I don't think that will happen in January. I think Joe Hart is going to be our keeper for the rest of the season. And I think Joe Hart's going to go out on a bit of a high at Celtic. That's my prediction. Right, we are playing today, as we say, St Mirren away. Have you got a team in your head you could run us through?
I think the one question mark is, do you throw Abada straight in from the start? Probably for Maeda, but then again, Maeda in an away game, you want that pressing to still be present. Palma is definitely going to play on the other side. I think he's itching for a goal. He's not scored in a wee bit, so I want to see Palma back in the score sheet. I think his last goal was a penalty, actually, so I want to see him from outside.
Abada was really good last time at St Mirren. He came on as a sub last season, and I think scored and set up a couple, and he was...
Yeah.
I think he was seen as being the major... change in that match in the second half. He came on at half time, didn't he? And he was wide right, and he stuck wide right because Maeda had a bit of a struggle in the first half. Just based off that, I wonder if you would put Abada in on the right hand side, and Palma on the left. Palma's still an interesting one to me. I'm still kind of absolutely waiting to see it, but then again, he does effective things, a lot of good crosses into the box. So we're thinking Joe Hart, Johnston, Narovsky, Scales, Taylor.
It's got to be Narovsky. He's the player it's not often I'm looking forward to seeing a centre back in a game, but he's probably the player I'm most excited to see. I was delighted with his performance. I know he gave away the free kick for the goals, people are saying in the comments, but I thought, especially that time where he slipped ever so slightly, but he still got the tackle in. He loves a tackle.
There was the first one he did. I think it was Seema ran around him, and he, if he'd mistimed it, he was booked, and it was a free kick right in the edge, and he just took the ball, and it was really, really good defending. I really like him, and I want to see him. Midfield, will it be the same? McGregor, Bernardo, and O'Reilly.
Yeah, I think so. Unless they want to throw in Hatate for his first appearance, and he's only appearance for about a month or so, because this will be the last opportunity to play him. I would be surprised as well. You can't drop Bernardo at this point in time. 2 goals in 2 games, and a really, really good performance. I think he might have been man of the match if he stayed on for the full 90. But he had to be taken off for his own good. He was either going to be taken off or he was sent off in that game, and thankfully it was the former. But Cal McGregor was immense in that game as well. It's good to see Bernardo stepping up to the plate. There's been a lot of conflicting reports about how much his option to buy is. If it is that crazy figure and it's 1.5 million, I'd be giving Benfica 2 million and saying thank you very much, just to make sure it happened. I think that would be a bargain in today's market for a guy.
Have you seen enough already?
That
I'd like
performance
to see
against
more, I
Rangers,
must say. Maybe I'm just, a bit tight, but I'd like to see a bit more before I'm spending money on him, I must say. I think he's been good recently, but I want to see consistency.
if it's the 6 million fee, then yes, I do want to see more. I want to see it over a consistent period of time. But Celtic would pay 1.5 million for the projects that aren't even getting in the side at the moment. This guy is in the first team and he's impacting first team proceedings. 21 years old, to have that character in a big fixture like that, and he's on his debut in that fixture. I think it shows that he's made of something else, and I'm delighted that he's getting this chance in the team. It's good that Brendan Rodgers came out and said that he was getting used to the physical side. It wasn't due to him being a below average player that he wasn't getting game time apart from the Champions League. I think the fact that he was playing in the Champions League was showing that he could play at that level. It's just the physicality he was getting used to. Now he is used to the physicality and it's coming up trumps. Great goal out the weekend. He absolutely loved every minute of it as well. He loved Kyogo's goal just as much.
He did.
It shows he's a good teammate as well. If he can keep this going to the end of the season, I think it'll be a no-brainer. He might even be a certain replacement for certain players in the summer. Not going to talk about them. Because he does look very similar to another player on the pitch. I get the two of them mixed up, two midfielders. But yeah, if he can keep this going, then I think it'll be a no-brainer in the summer. But I'm looking forward to seeing more of him today, and I'm hoping he puts in another good performance. It'd be good. 3 in a row would be absolutely brilliant for him. But I'm excited to see him again.
Certainly. Have we glossed over an issue here, or a potential issue in the starting lineup? A few people pointing out, Tom here saying Alistair Johnson has had a nightmare, I think he means, the other day, and Chilpil saying Ralston to start for today for me. And I think there's been a few people saying that. Would you start Ralston today?
It's an interesting one. Ralston in these games can be quite good because it's a tighter pitch and you need that physicality. I always think back to the Dingwall game where he scored the late winner. Sometimes you need that extra bit of bite. It's not as if Johnson
scored at St Mirren earlier last season, didn't he?
Yeah, if the thing is though, it's the last game until a 2 or so week break, 2-3 week break. I don't see what the harm is in playing Johnson, trying to get him back into form, and then he can go away and end the half of the season on a high rather than the low that he'll have been feeling after that game. He would have still been buzzing about the result, but he would have known himself that he had a bit of a shocker. It was completely different to the start of the year where he was absolutely tremendous at Ibrox. He was probably the worst player on the park, I would say, or one of the worst players on the park for Celtic anyway in that game. So I think just to not upset the team too much, I'd play Johnson. But if it is to be Ralston, then I trust that he could have a good performance in him. He can get good crosses into the box. Brendan Rodgers could throw a curveball and throw players in, but I think he'll go with largely the same as what happened as the team on Saturday, because we do have a winter break coming up.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have an issue either way. I would probably tend to go with Johnston. He has been poor recently, there's no shying away from that, but for me, he's still a better player than Ralston overall. I think, if you went back 2 months, the fact we'd even be having a debate about, Johnson or Ralston would be a big thing. Johnson for me is a superior player, and with today being the final game, I don't think. I don't know, people might disagree. I don't think it warrants being dropped right now, to be honest. He made that mistake and he wasn't great overall on Saturday, but I would keep him in that team today because I still think he's a solid enough player, and I think he'll still go on to be an important player for us in the second half of the season, hopefully as the team improves and all of that stuff. St Mirren, decent enough to beat Aberdeen, didn't they, last time out, 3-0 at Pittodrie. May say more about Aberdeen than St Mirren, but they're solid, and as we said earlier, you know what you're going to get with Stephen Robinson team. They're going to be extremely well organised. They're probably going to have 2 big, huge forwards who are quick as well and are going to run us and are going to make it aggressive. They're going to have Mark O'Hara coming in at the back post. They're going to be neat enough and have a bit of bite in midfield, and it's a game that we can't afford to not be up for. We need to be right up for this today from the first minute, and if we win the battle, our quality I'm sure will show.
Yeah, I'm sure if Celtic play well, they'll win this game. Their biggest enemy, as I said on Saturday, what I was feeling in the first half, the biggest enemy is themselves in games, and they shoot themselves in the foot with silly mistakes. If they don't do that, then they'll run over the top of most teams. It's not arrogance, it's just the fact that they've got better players than the other team. St Mirren do have I think St Mirren's biggest asset is their manager in that regard. Like, he always sets them up really, really well. I think he's one of the better operators in the league in terms of managers. It shows that they actually paid money to get him away from Morecambe. Remember, Fabrizio Romano tweeted that he was joining St Mirren, so it was a big deal at that point for them. But yeah, I've always rated him as a manager. I thought he did a really good job at Motherwell for a couple of seasons. Then he's doing a good job at St Mirren. Had a bit of a drop off recently, but that 3-0 win, they'll be feeling really, really good about themselves. Especially against that. I know Aberdeen are all over the place with their form at the minute. Some days are good and some days are not. But any win at Pittodrie, if Celtic were to win 3-0 at Pittodrie, people would be praising it and highlighting it. So the fact that St Mirren went over there and got that win is a tremendous result for them. It's going to be a difficult match. The low block's going to be there. They're going to have big, imposing figures up front. You just know that's going to be the case. But if Celtic can play their game, control the controllables and play their own style of game, then I think they'll be fine on the day, because it's a good pitch, it's a good surface, a good stadium, and if Celtic can play their game, I think they'll be all right on the day.
Yes, I feel that way too. 7:45 tonight. If you turn your telly on at that time, you'll have missed the game, because it's a 5 p.m. kickoff. 5 p.m. the game kicks off today, live on Sky Sports, I believe. Anything else, Ryan, before we sign off?
I'm trying to think.
I love how he always has a think. He never just says no. He always goes.
And just in case I miss something, and then I read the comments later on, I'm like, there's been something really big that I've missed. Because the briefing's been stop-start due to the Christmas and New Year, you're talking about different things, but it's good that we're back on a bit of a semi-regular schedule, or a regular schedule now, because we'll be going till the end of the week. I don't think there's anything else. I think we've touched on absolutely everything. Touched on the team, touched on the transfers. The manager's loving it as well. Box office Brendan is definitely back. The 5 managers.
Briefcase Brendan. Brendan. He means business.
He definitely does. That 5 managers comment was an all-timer in the Brendan Rodgers world. I really enjoyed that quote from him, and it shows that he's enjoying himself as well. I think he lives for these fixtures. I think he lives for the Celtic Rangers games. This is his big chance to sort of show himself off, and he certainly did that on Saturday, and he deserved to, because his team get the 3 points.
I got in from the game at the weekend at 2 in the morning or something like that, and I sat up for 2 hours on my phone, just you just take it all in, the derbies, and we got the Rodgers quotes and various forums. One of them rhymes with hollow, and I fair enjoyed the wee browse on there, and obviously the Celtic ones as well. And I got to bed about 4 a.m. So that was a glorious evening. The game actually tonight kicks off at 4 a.m. here, so I'm not sure I'll be up to watch it at the time. But yeah, hopefully 3 more points for Celtic, and we'll regroup back tomorrow to hopefully talk about it. It's our final game of the first half of the season. Basically, after tonight or this evening, we stop for 3 weeks. Buckie Thistle's the next game. So a real opportunity for the team to put 3 more points onto the leaderboard. I have no idea why I've called it a leaderboard there. It's a league table. I'm going to say goodbye. Ryan, thanks for your time. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Harry Cool is gone as well. We didn't even mention that. Maybe we can do that tomorrow. Right, everyone. Speak to you soon.
Cheers, guys.